We're digging in. We're starting a new series. We have 4 weeks because we have tonight, which is what we're going to start on, the 12. We're going to talk about Jesus' 12 disciples, the 12 guys that he surrounded himself with, and why were they called, okay? So what's the circumstance around why Jesus picked these 12 guys? Then next week, we're going to talk about how they interacted, these 12 guys interacted with people and miracles that were happening. Jesus would heal people, and these guys would respond a certain way, and so we're going to talk about that. And then the third week, we're going to talk about how the disciples prepared for Jesus' death on the cross. And then the last week, we're going to talk about how how the disciples responded to Jesus' resurrection after he was resurrected and he started showing up. You know, like they watched him get crucified, dead, and buried, and then he revealed himself like, I'm alive, I'm resurrected. So that'll be week 4. So that'll be the 4 weeks of March, and then the 5th week will be Easter, and we won't have youth group that night on Easter, so you guys can hang out with your family, spend time with your family. We'll have an Easter sunrise service and an Easter service in here at 10 o'clock, and then you guys have probably big plans with family and stuff like that. But I'm getting you prepped as we get towards Easter, okay? 4 weeks, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then Easter happens, okay? So I feel like it's very important that as we get close to Easter, that we understand what it is. Because I grew up, when I was your age, like they didn't put a whole lot of emphasis on the build-up towards Easter. Like when it was like, all of a sudden, when I was your age, it was like, oh, it's Easter Sunday. And so it was like, it was here, and it wasn't like preparing like I did for Christmas. When I was your age and I was preparing for Christmas, there was like a countdown in my calendar. I was ready to get out of school. I was ready for my parents to give me a whole bunch of stuff. Like there was a build up towards Christmas. But then Easter, you kind of go, oh, you turn around and it's here. And so what we're going to talk about is why did Jesus choose these 12 guys? These 12 guys that all have very different personalities, that all came from different backgrounds. And so what we'll talk about are those and how Jesus called them tonight. You guys ready? Okay, so we're going to jump in. And Matthew is mainly the book that we're going to be in. And then we're going to be in the very last, we're going to be in Luke. Okay, so I'm going to put stuff on the screen behind me. I want you guys... you guys don't have to speak to me if you don't want to, but there will be times that I'll want some feedback from you, okay? But you don't have to, so don't feel like, oh man, Jeremy's going to make me talk. You don't have to talk. You can stay as quiet as you want. But if you do have something that you feel like, oh, I want to add to this conversation, we'll have a time to do that, okay? Ready? Here we go. The first thing is this. This is what's going to lead us off. The whole 4 weeks are going to be focused around this verse that you see at the very top. Okay? The very top of your paper is going to be the passage that sort of bleeds down into everything that we're going to be talking about for 4 weeks. What does it mean to be a disciple? Well, Jesus said it very clearly, and if you don't listen to these words, if you don't let these words really sink in and you understand that this is really the sum of everything Jesus did when he was here, everything that he talked about, everything that led up to him being nailed on a cross, it all comes down to this one verse right here. That if we really let this, internalize it, you look at your life, nobody knows you as good as you do. And then there's some people in your life that know you pretty well too. Maybe a mom or dad, a best friend you tell everything to. Now, they may know a lot about you, but you know everything that you struggle with. You know everything that you feel like makes you less of a person. You know your weaknesses, but you also know your strengths. You know what you have potential in. You're like, man, if I really let God cut loose in my life in this area, I don't know what could happen. Well, listen to this passage. Ready? Whoever wants to be my disciple, that's the key word here, we're talking about the 12. Whoever wants to be my disciple must do 3 things. They must deny themselves, take up their cross, and follow me. This is what Jesus says. Now, as a teenager, as somebody that you're letting that verse just speak all over your life, we have to ask ourselves some questions, okay? Well, in order for us to figure out what a disciple is, these three things have to come along with it. Because you guys don't say the word disciple that often, probably, I'm guessing. Doesn't come up in daily language. Like, hey, I'm a disciple of my geometry teacher. Okay, me and him go way back. I'm a disciple. Maybe you don't. But if you're trying to figure out what a disciple is, these three things are very critical. So let me ask you, and you can throw stuff back, but very brief. Make it as brief as possible. Something that you can add to it is, what does it mean to deny yourself? Deny what? Anybody got anything? I mean, this is critical. If you want to be my disciple, whose disciple? Jesus. If you want to be my disciple, you've got to do these three things. If we're asking the question, what is this, and none of us know it, does that mean that none of us are doing it? Because that would be bad. What does it mean to deny yourself? Deny yourself what? Of what you want to do. Okay. What does that look like in daily life? Like if you're like, it's lunchtime and you're like, I don't want to eat. I want to eat because I'm starving, but I want to deny myself. Is that connect or no? No.
It's more of a situation like you have church on Sunday morning, but your friends are doing something on Saturday night that will keep you up.
Okay. So you're throwing out a priority. You got to deny some of the things that you want to do for some of the things that you think, this is a higher priority. It's not that you don't want to go to church on Sunday, but it needs to be a higher priority because you feel like that would be better for you. Okay? Like for some of you, you probably hate school, but you know that there would be bad consequences if you just stopped going. Okay? Because later on in life, you're going to go, oh man, like this is really hurting me now. Okay? Like I really didn't want to go when I was 15, but now that when I dropped out, now that I'm 30, nobody will hire me. And so life is hard. Okay? But so you deny yourself something. What else do you deny? What does it mean? You got to deny yourself in order for Jesus to be a priority in your life. So what are you denying yourself? Or what does the word deny mean? I'm jumping to conclusions. What does it mean to deny something? If you're like, I deny it. What does that mean?
You don't accept it.
You don't accept it. So you say, I'm not going to accept this in my life. Ooh, that's deep. Let's follow that track for a little bit, okay? Ask to do something deep in the water, okay? You're going to go, I don't accept it. There are people in here where people will tell you that you're not a valuable person or that you're not good at this or that. And there are moments that you have to say, I deny that. I know you say that I'm not good enough, but my God says that I'm good enough. So I deny that kind of bad information. There are people that get made fun of all the time. And you go, I deny that. I'm denying this part because you know what? God says that I'm worthy for His Son to come and die on a cross. So whatever you're telling me is not true. I deny false things. I deny things that aren't true. But what does it mean for us to deny everything in our life to follow Him? What does that entail? What is involved in doing that? If this is the first thing that Jesus says, it's got to be kind of important, right? What does it mean to deny yourself? Anybody else?
Give up all your personal stuff.
Give up your personal stuff? Does God make us give all of our stuff away? So see, that is like, you're right. There may be a point where God says, you need to, this is owning you. However much money you have or whatever job you have, it owns you. And you need to deny all of that stuff in order to make me a priority again. But does God call, we're saving money. Saving money is a very responsible thing to do. Not always does God say give up every last dime that you have. But what happens when we have something in our life that just consumes us? We have an idol. How do you deny that idol? How do you get over worshiping another idol? Do you guys worship idols that are other than God? Anybody worshiping something other than God? Anybody want to admit it? You're like, Baal. A big old golden donkey. That's what I worship. Nobody does?
I feel like kind of like phones are kind of like an idol.
Like, I think like anything that like you put before God is an idol.
It is. You're absolutely 100% right.
You don't
Anything that you put, in order for us to deny ourselves, there can't be anything else above God. Because if anything's above God, when He speaks to you, you'll never hear Him. You guys wonder, you go, man, I've prayed before, but I haven't heard anything. Sometimes you got to check your heart. You go, maybe there's something that I've got in front of God that makes it hard for me to hear Him. But we're not ever going to get there. It's already 7:19. Take up their cross. What does that mean? What does it mean to take up your cross? What is your cross? Oh, wait. Let's ask a better question. Just a yes or no. Ready? Is everybody's cross in here the same thing? No. So what is your cross then? For the person that's sitting here going, oh, great. I was going to ask my neighbor what their cross is so I can give up. Yeah.
What God is calling you to do.
What is God calling you to do? For Jesus, what was God calling His Son to do? Yeah. To give up everything. For us who are disciples, and we say, Jesus, we're going to follow you. That's the last one, right? We're going to follow you. Do you know where the road ended for Jesus?
Yes.
The road ends with giving everything you got. That's a serious calling, right? So if you guys are on the fence of following Jesus, I don't want to scare you off yet, okay? It's good. We'll figure this out piece by piece because that's a heavy calling, right? This is big because we have to give our lives for it. There's a reward for this that is bigger than anything you could ever imagine. Okay? He is calling us forward. And I wrote this down in my notebook this morning when Pastor Joe was talking, because where he was talking just reminded me of a passage that says, there's no eye has ever seen, no ear has ever heard, no mind has ever even imagined what God is creating for those who love Him. So you may think, wow, what does it take to be a disciple? It takes a lot. It takes a lot because you're going to an extraordinary place. But it takes all of us. We don't just half-heartedly go, yeah, I'll follow you, God, as long as it's not to Africa, right? Okay? I don't go to a third world country or anything. Don't call me to Pakistan. I don't want to go. But you go, God, I'll follow you wherever you call me to go. Whatever you call me to do, I'll follow you. So here's what we're going to be. Very first thing, very important, okay, is that Jesus does not call idle people. Write that down. Jesus does not call idle people. Here's the first verse. This is how He approaches His disciples, okay? He approaches Peter, John, and Andrew and James, okay? Peter, John, Andrew, James. He approaches these guys, and this is what He says. He says, come follow me, and I'll show you how to fish for people. What are they doing? These guys are fishing at the time. Okay? They're doing something. There's oftentimes when God calls Moses, he was tending sheep. He was doing stuff. God calls people who are actively doing something. If you just go, you know what? I'll wait for God to tell me exactly what to do, so I'm going to sit and wait. If you're idle, if you're bored, oftentimes boredom will carry you into sin. Boredom will lead you in the wrong direction. So Jesus calls people, and He calls His disciples, and it's so interesting that He calls them when they're doing stuff. They're in the middle of their occupation. They're fishing. And then you got these other guys that are untangling the nets, getting it ready. And they're like, okay, here, let's get this ready. And He goes, guys, here, what you're doing right now, you're active right now, put it down and come follow me. Huge. Don't be bored all the time. Figure out some way to be active in what you're doing. Maybe there's something that God's calling you to do that's just really small, the boring things in life. But God really needs you to be faithful in those small things so that He can trust you with those big things. If you can't be trusted with the small things, then why would He give you something big to do? Idle. If you find yourself being bored a lot, it might be because God's been trying to speak to you, get you moving, get you off the couch. Or maybe you go, I can count, now that classes are like online and you kind of get back into it, but you have those days when you're like, I have more free time than I've had in a long time. What are you doing with that time? Because Jesus doesn't call idle, still, motionless people. If you're static, if you're motionless in your walk with God, that means you're not walking. He's not going to stand there with you while you're doing nothing and just go, yeah, this is good. You're in a good spot. We're just going to wait here for the weather to get better. If you're waiting for the weather to get good, to make a move, you'll wait until you're dead. Okay? So we're going to move. Don't wait. Now, here's the next thing. Write this down. This is the very definition of what it means to be a disciple. What does it mean to be a disciple? It means that you go and you follow. I was at a church before where we would hang out downtown in a little downtown area, and there was a church around the corner that they decided to come up with this plan. They were going to go save 1 million people. That was their plan. It was called their 1 million person march or something like that. So this 1 million person, we're going to go out there and we're going to save people and we'll check them off. So we'll just go, we saved, and they just asked your first name. That's all they wanted. They saved Bill, okay? Saved them. And so what they would do is they would walk down the road and they would just walk right up to you and go, hey, do you know Jesus? And somebody would be like, no. And they go, you want to pray to know him? And people were like, I guess. And they're going, save Bill. Amen. You're saved. What's your name? Bill? Okay, see you later. And they go on. And they would do that until they had 1 million people saved. And I was thinking to myself, they came up to me and they said, you want to accept Jesus to be your Savior? And I'm like, actually, Jesus is already my Savior. I'm a youth pastor. And they go, well, do you want to pray anyways? And I was like, why? What do you want to pray for? And they're like, we just want to, write you down so that we can say that he saved you. And I was like, okay. So they're like, Jeremy, check. Save Jeremy. I was like, thanks for saving me, guys. And they move on with life. And I was thinking to myself, okay, so if I were somebody who had no idea who Jesus was, and I wanted to be a disciple, did I know Jesus any better after that conversation? No, of course not. Just a quick prayer and me saying something so that they could check the box doesn't make me a disciple. You know why? Because the very definition of a disciple is somebody that says, hey, come. What was it? I'll throw it up there again. Ready? Oh, what happened? Just disappeared.
Come follow me and I will show you.
There we go. Yeah. Come, follow me and I will show you how. There it is, right there. Come, follow me, and I'll show you how. Right? It's not just, I'm going to pray over you. There's nothing wrong with praying over somebody. But if you want to help somebody become somebody who believes in Jesus, then it can't just be, I'm going to pray with you, and then I'm going to go, and I'm just going to assume that you've got this all worked out. It's come follow me. It's all about relationship. Think about the people that have poured into your life. When I got here as your youth pastor, did I say, okay, listen, I'm going to preach once, and then you're on your own, okay? That'll be it. But I'll be in my office if, you want to come by. And that's it. But you're never going to see me again. But that wouldn't have helped anything, right? I took on the task of going, you know what? I feel like God's leading me here so that I can help disciple you and help you grow. If I can do that, I want to. But it's a come follow me and I'll show you how. Not just I'm going to pray and leave. Okay? So write this down. Let's go to this next one and you guys throw some stuff at me. I gotta wrap this up. And there's too many good ones. There's 3 more that are just too good. Ready? A little farther up the shore, Jesus saw 2 other brothers, James and John. sitting in a boat with their father, Zebedee, cool name by the way, repairing their nets. And he called to them to come too. They immediately followed him, leaving the boat and their father behind. Write this down. Following Jesus sometimes means you have to leave things behind. Following Jesus means leaving some things behind. Some of the things that we have to leave behind are the harder things that have consumed us, right? This is the part that you guys had great feedback when I said, what does it mean to deny yourself? And you're like, man, it's something you just got to leave behind. How much would it have hurt for these guys? These guys had to leave their father and their careers behind. I've met some really cool people along the way that have said, I had a great career, making over $100,000 a year. And my family and I, we were secure. We had a great house and everything. And then one day I felt like God was calling me to put it behind and to go work for these other people. But it was like a pay cut that would just slice my salary in half. And it was the most terrifying move I've ever made in my life. But ever since that day, God has taken care of me day after day after day. My wife, my kids, God has just blessed us in ways that never would have happened if I'd have played it safe and just had this. And I go, wow, to hear a voice like that and to trust is sometimes it means leaving things that make you feel secure, to leave those things behind. Jesus was walking. I just came up with this. I just reminded me of this. Is Jesus was walking along and this blind guy who had, named Bartimaeus, had a cloak over his shoulders. And a cloak is what they used for everybody in the town to know that's a poor man. He needs help. Give him money. And when he heard Jesus was coming, he immediately threw that thing away like it was garbage. Like that was everything for a blind guy, right? He has that on, people take care of him. But he as soon as he heard Jesus was coming, he goes, this is my opportunity. And he grabbed his cloak, and it says he threw it aside like it was garbage. Like just, this isn't what I need anymore. I need him. Some things you have to leave behind. And these disciples had to leave not only their family behind, they had to leave their careers behind too. Everything that's comfortable, everything that they know really well. So, spoiler alert, for some of you, you will be called to leave behind something that makes you feel super comfortable and secure. And you'll have to follow. Otherwise, you'll end up on 50, 60, 70 years from now going, did I miss my turn? And it was over. I missed it. And I look back and I just, if I'd have made that turn then. Like God's still with me. But I wonder what he could have done with me if I'd have made that turn. This next one right here. He interacts with more people. Look what he does. He found Philip and said to him, come, follow me. Philip went to look for Nathanael. Nathanael, also known as Bartholomew. I love that. My name's Nathanael. You can call me Bartholomew for short. And told him, we have found the very person Moses and the prophets wrote about. Exclamation point. His name is Jesus, the son of Joseph from Nazareth. Now, there's just one very common word in here that jumped out to me, which is what I put on number 3 that I want you to write down. Notice what he did for Philip. He found him. What does that mean? It means this, write this down, is that Jesus was looking for Philip. The same way that Jesus is looking for you. So I want you to write that down and then look at that. Jesus is actually looking for me. Not one of those things where he goes, Jesus died on the cross, but specifically for this financial status group of people, or specifically for the people that don't deal or that don't struggle with these sins, or specifically for this person that didn't have this kind of background. Jesus is looking for me. You're sitting in here, you're listening to this, or you're watching this online, whatever. Jesus is looking. He found Philip. He looked for Philip. I'm looking for him. And Jesus is looking for you. No matter, even if you're sitting here, Jesus is looking for a lot of people that sit in these pews. I know. Dare I say it? That there's people that may just come just to come, or maybe it's because it's a social outlet or a place that they can meet people. But Jesus is looking for every person that sits in this church. Every person you run into at school. Jesus is looking for them. And you might be the person to help lead them to Jesus. And Jesus is talking to you, trying to go, I need you to be my hands and feet in this location at this time for these people. Because they're not going to see me if you don't be that person. He found Philip. The only reason you find anything is because you're looking for it. So you have to let this really sink in. Jesus is looking for you. And he will continue to look for you. Even if you say, I'll run from you for a few more years. I mean, I hope you don't run out of time. But he will continue to look for you as long as you have breath in your body. Last thing. I just love how he's talking to these guys. And this is it. He saw a tax collector named Levi, also known as Matthew. Levi, or you can call me Matthew. My friends call me Matthew. Sitting at his tax collector's booth. Follow me and be my disciple, Jesus said to him. So Levi got up, left everything, and followed him. Now, here's the thing. This is what I want you to write down, but I'm gonna build it up with this, and then I'll pray, and I'll let you guys go. But is there something there that jumps out to you? I changed from the book of Matthew to the book of Luke to talk about how Matthew was called by Jesus to follow him. And it's interesting. You ready? So everybody look at me when I say this. When Matthew recalls the moment that Jesus came to his tax collector's booth and said, hey, come follow me, just like the other guys. Hey, come follow me. Matthew says this. So read on this last one. Jesus said to him, follow me, be my disciple. And Matthew got up and followed him. But when Luke, somebody else, recalls this moment happening, Luke made mention of the fact that not only did Matthew get up and follow, but he left everything. So when Matthew's talking about his calling, when Jesus interacted, think about it for 1 second. Can you recall a moment in your life where you lost something that was incredibly important to you? You lost something that was extremely valuable. Maybe you lost something that you treasured, it was worth a lot of money to you, or maybe it was just sentimental value, or maybe you lost a person in your life, and you lost that something. It was something that emotionally feels very deep inside. And so Matthew, when he recalls the moment Jesus calls him to leave everything, to put it all behind, to leave your family, to leave your career, all of that, Matthew doesn't even make mention of the fact that he left anything. He just says, I got up and I followed. But when Luke, his buddy, talks about it, he goes, Matthew got up and he left everything behind to follow. And here's why I think that's important. Write this down. Is that Matthew, in his recollection of this moment taking place in his life, Matthew recalls only what he gained, not what he lost. Your head should have just exploded right then. Okay? Matthew, when he's recalling a moment where he put everything aside, the only thing he was thinking about was, I got up, I followed Jesus, and my life was changed forever. Eternity for me was changed forever. When Matthew recalls it, it's like Luke had more details. He goes, you don't understand. Matthew left everything behind. Everything he was good at, all his money, all his possessions, everything was right there at that little tax collector's kiosk that he was sitting at. He got up and he left it all. And Matthew was like, oh yeah, that's right. I left everything behind. I wasn't focusing on what I lost. I was focusing on everything that I just gained. Disciples, I think, is curious to me is that you must deny yourself, pick up your cross, and follow. So as we wrap this up with this last thought, I want you to think about this. All the guys that Jesus called, right then, these 12 guys that were all from different backgrounds. We learned that some of them were fishermen, some of them were over here untangling their nets with their dad, with their family. Another guy was at a tax collector's booth, and we don't know all the circumstances around how every one of them was called, but here's what we do know. Whoever was called, they dropped everything immediately and they followed. You know why? Why would you do that? Why would a human being leave everything that's important to follow? It's because they understood in this moment that this man has something that I really want more than anything else. Like, I'm not going to stay here at this tax collector's booth and watch eternity walk away from me so that I can have a pile of useless money that won't be around after I'm dead. That's not worth it. For some of us in here, it's just about rearranging our priorities tonight. We've had a lot of stuff go on over the last year. We're trying to make sense of what our life is going to look like next year. And for some of you, I say it jokingly too, but you guys are growing up, and you guys like grow up, and I turn around and boom, you're gone. Like when I got here, you were super young, and now all of a sudden you're like old and you're leaving. And you're going to go off into the world, and you're going to chase something. You're going to chase something that's going to dissolve and disappear when the world is gone, or you're going to chase something that lasts for eternity. And that's why I spend every day and every time we get together just pleading for you to make sure your priorities are in the right place. That if you have that call that comes, and it hits you like an arrow, like I've told you so many times. My call hits me like an arrow in the head, and I go, I've got to follow. I got to go. And all my friends are like, you'd be the worst youth pastor ever. And I was like, I deny that. I'm going to follow where God's called me to go. And maybe I am. Maybe I'm one of the worst youth pastors ever. I don't know. But I'll tell you this. It's not going to be because I didn't put effort into it. It's not going to be because I didn't love you guys. There might be a million youth pastors do this job better than I could. But I'll tell you what, there's no way that anybody loves you more than I do. I'll take that. Take it and receive it. I love you guys, and I want the very best for you, and that's why it matters what decision we make from here. What step do you need to take tonight and in the days to come? 7:41, I'll pray, I'll let you guys go, okay? Father, tonight we're thankful for an opportunity just to be here, to listen to your voice, to speak to our hearts, and maybe one of us in here, we're going to leave it all at your feet. All it takes is for us to say, I've got junk in my life that I need you to take from me, and I just ask for forgiveness, and I want to follow you. Come follow me. And that's the biggest thing that we could ever choose to do. And so maybe we'll wait. Maybe we'll wait and we'll be alone in our room tonight, and we'll be thinking about it again, and it'll come across our minds. Do we really want to follow? Because we're going to choose a pathway tonight that's going to lead us somewhere that we don't know where it's going to be a year from now or 10 years from now. But if we choose to follow you, it will lead us in a very different place than if we choose to just do whatever we want to do with our lives. And we know that this choice can be made tonight, right now. One moment could change our entire eternity. And so I pray that tonight we would just choose you over everything else and make sure that you're number one in everything that we do. We pray this in your name. Amen.